I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to take a cruise alone. That was supposed to be something couples did, retired folks celebrating their 50th anniversary. Newlyweds too broke for anything fancier than a floating buffet. But here I was, 32 years old and single again, standing on the dock in Seattle with a duffel bag and a ticket for the Northern Star. The breakup had been ugly. 3 years with Jennifer, gone in a single weekend when I found out she'd been seeing her co-worker for 6 months. I needed to get away, and a last-minute Alaskan cruise was cheaper than therapy. 7 days at sea, glaciers and whales, all-you-can-eat shrimp. It seemed perfect. The Northern Star looked older than the photos online. Rust stains streaked down her white hull, and the blue paint on the railings was peeling in long strips. But she was massive. 12 decks of cabins, restaurants, and whatever else they packed into these things. The gangway creaked under my feet as I boarded. Inside, the ship smelled like industrial cleaner, mixed with something I couldn't quite place. Something organic and stale. The lobby was done up in that cruise ship style. Too much brass, mirrors everywhere, carpet with a pattern that looked like someone had thrown up geometry. A few elderly passengers shuffled past, and I headed toward the elevator with my keycard in hand. Deck 9, cabin 947. The hallway seemed to stretch on forever. Identical doors on both sides, marked with brass numbers. I passed a crew member in a crisp white uniform, but when I nodded hello, she just stared straight ahead like I wasn't there. My cabin was small but functional. Twin bed, tiny bathroom, a porthole looking out at the grey Seattle sky. I tossed my bag on the bed and was about to head out when I heard a knock. An elderly woman stood in the hallway, maybe 70, with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore a purple cardigan despite the warmth of the ship. "You're in 947?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. Just checked in." She glanced down the hallway, then back at me. Her eyes were sharp, clear. "I'm next door in 949, Mrs. Keller. Just wanted to introduce myself." "Tom," I said, shaking her hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "Tom." She said my name like she was testing it. "Listen, I don't want to scare you, but I need to tell you something. Don't go to deck 13 after midnight." I smiled, thinking it was some kind of cruise ship superstition. Deck 13? I thought the ship only has 12 decks. "It does." Her expression didn't change. "Just remember what I said." She turned and went into her cabin, the door clicking shut behind her. I stood there for a moment, then shook my head. Probably just a quirky old lady. Cruises attracted all types. The first evening at sea was exactly what I'd expected. The horn blew at 5 o'clock, and the ship pulled away from the dock with a rumble that vibrated through the floor. I went up to the buffet on deck 11 and loaded up a plate with rubbery chicken and soggy vegetables. The dining room was half empty, filled mostly with retirees in Hawaiian shirts. After dinner, I explored. The ship had a small casino that smelled like cigarettes, a theater where they were setting up for a comedy show, a couple of bars with names like the Glacier Lounge and the Captain's Quarters. I walked the exterior decks, feeling the cold wind coming off the water as we headed north into the inside passage. That's when I started noticing the crew. The same woman I'd passed in the hallway earlier was now working behind the bar. Same uniform, Same blank expression. Then I saw her again 20 minutes later, cleaning tables in the buffet. I did a double take. It had to be someone else. Maybe a twin or just similar looking. But no, it was her. Same mole on her left cheek. Same way her hair was pinned back. I chalked it up to being understaffed. Budget crews, budget crew. Maybe they had people pulling double duty. The comedy show started at 8. I grabbed a seat in the back of the theater, which was maybe a quarter full. The comedian was a middle-aged guy with a sweaty forehead and a cheap tuxedo. He told jokes that nobody laughed at, not because they weren't funny, but because they were weird. Stories that didn't have punchlines, observations that trailed off into nothing. But the crew members laughed. They were scattered throughout the audience, and they'd burst into applause at odd moments, sometimes mid-sentence, sometimes during the silence after a failed joke. Their clapping was synchronized, perfectly timed, like they'd rehearsed it. I left before the show ended. Back in my cabin, I made sure to lock the door, turn the deadbolt, put on the chain. I was being paranoid, but something about this ship felt off. I changed into my pajamas and was about to brush my teeth when I noticed something. The deadbolt was unlocked. I stood in the bathroom doorway, toothbrush in hand, staring at the door. I was certain, absolutely certain, I'd locked it. I walked over and tested the handle. It opened easily. Had someone been in here? I checked my belongings. Everything was where I'd left it. Nothing missing, nothing moved. I locked the door again, checked it 3 times, and climbed into bed. Sleep came slowly. The ship's engines hummed beneath me, a deep vibration that never stopped. Pipes clanked in the walls. Water rushed through unseen channels. And just as I was drifting off, I heard footsteps. They were coming from above, from deck 10. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. Not just one person, many, walking in circles, around and around, directly over my cabin. I checked my phone, 3:47. The footsteps continued for 10 minutes, then stopped abruptly. The silence that followed was somehow worse. I didn't sleep well after that. The next morning, I felt like hell. Dark circles under my eyes, a headache from the ship's motion. I grabbed breakfast at the buffet, rubbery scrambled eggs and toast, and looked around for Mrs. Keller. I wanted to ask her what she'd meant about deck 13. She wasn't there. I ate quickly and went back to deck 9. Her cabin was right next to mine, 9:49. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder. Mrs. Keller, it's Tom from next door. Nothing. A crew member walked past, a young guy with slicked back hair and that same blank expression. I stopped him. Excuse me, do you know the woman in 9:49? Mrs. Keller. He stared at me for a long moment. There's no one registered in that cabin, sir. What? No, I met her yesterday. Elderly woman, purple cardigan. Cabin 949 is unoccupied. He walked away before I could respond. I stood there, confused. Had I gotten the number wrong? I looked at the door. 949. This was definitely it. I tried the handle, locked. Maybe she'd gotten off at Ketchikan, our first port stop. But that didn't make sense. We hadn't arrived yet. I spent the morning wandering the ship, trying to shake off the unease. The weather had turned grey and cold, fog rolling across the water. We were somewhere in the inside passage now, surrounded by forested islands and distant mountains. It should have been beautiful, but I couldn't focus on anything except the weird feeling in my gut. At lunch, I noticed something else. The dining room was less crowded than yesterday. Not by much, maybe 5 or 6 people missing. But I'd seen these passengers before, remembered their faces. A young couple who'd been taking selfies by the pool. A man in a Seahawks jersey. They were just gone. I approached the information desk, where a woman in a blue uniform was typing on a computer. "Excuse me," I said. "Is there a passenger manifest I could look at? I'm trying to find someone." She smiled, the first smile I'd seen from any crew member. It didn't reach her eyes. "We can't provide passenger information, sir. Privacy policy. I just need to know if someone is on board. Mrs. Keller, cabin 949. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. "No one by that name is registered." "That's impossible. I talked to her yesterday." "Perhaps you met her at the port. Sometimes people wander onto the ship before boarding." That didn't make any sense, but she'd already turned back to her computer, dismissing me. I went to the hallway where the passenger manifest was posted, a printed list behind glass, updated daily. I took a photo with my phone, just in case. That evening, I couldn't bring myself to go to the dining room. The thought of sitting there surrounded by silent passengers, crew members who wouldn't look at me, it was too much. I ordered room service, a sad-looking burger and fries that arrived on a plastic tray. At 11:30, my stomach was still growling. The burger had been inedible, mostly raw in the middle. I needed real food. The buffet was on deck 11. I threw on jeans and a hoodie and headed up, expecting the place to be empty. It wasn't. Every table was full. Passengers sat in absolute silence, plates of food in front of them. Nobody was eating. Nobody was talking. They just sat there, staring at their meals. I froze in the doorway. Then, as if on cue, every head turned toward me. Dozens of faces, all blank, all watching. I recognized some of them. The elderly couple from the comedy show, the woman who'd been doing yoga by the pool, and there, at a table near the window, was Mrs. Keller. She looked directly at me. Her lips moved, forming a single word. "Run." I backed away slowly, my heart hammering. The faces tracked my movement, synchronized, mechanical. When I reached the hallway, they all turned back to their plates at once. I ran to my cabin, slammed the door, and shoved the desk chair under the handle. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely turn the deadbolt. What the hell was happening on this ship? I didn't sleep at all that night. Every sound made me jump. The pipes, the engines, footsteps in the hallway. At one point, I heard someone try my door handle. It rattled softly, testing the lock. I held my breath until the footsteps moved away. By morning, I'd made a decision. I was getting off this ship. Our first port stop was Ketchikan, a small fishing town in southern Alaska. The ship was scheduled to dock at 9, and passengers would have until 5 to explore before we departed again. I'd find the local authorities, tell them what was happening, refuse to get back on board. At 8:45, I grabbed my wallet and phone and headed for the exit. A line of passengers waited at the gangway, but 2 crew members blocked the exit. The same 2 men, Identical, both over 6 feet tall with square jaws and dark hair. Security guards, I assumed. "Excuse me," I said, trying to squeeze past. "I need to get off." One of them stepped in front of me. "Your ticket requires completion of the full voyage, sir." "I don't care. I'm getting off." "That's not possible." "What do you mean it's not possible?" "This is a port stop. Passengers are allowed." "Your ticket," he repeated, "requires completion of the full voyage." I looked at the other passengers waiting in line. None of them reacted, like this was perfectly normal. "This is insane," I said, louder now. "You can't keep me on this ship against my will." The two security guards exchanged a glance. Then they each grabbed one of my arms and lifted me off my feet. I struggled, shouting, but they carried me like I weighed nothing. Passengers stepped aside to let us pass, their faces blank. They brought me back to my cabin and set me down in the hallway. "Enjoy your voyage," one of them said. I watched them walk away, and that's when I noticed it. The glass door at the end of the hallway reflected everything: the carpet, the light fixtures, the paintings on the walls. Everything except the two security guards. They cast no reflection. I stood there, breathing hard, my mind racing. This wasn't just weird anymore. This was impossible. I needed to find someone else who saw what I was seeing. Someone who knew something was wrong. I spent the afternoon searching. Most passengers ignored me or gave me confused looks when I tried to talk to them. But then, on deck 7, I spotted a young woman sitting alone in the library. She had dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail and looked like she was in her mid-20s. More importantly, she looked afraid. I sat down across from her. "Are you okay?" She glanced up, startled. "What?" I said, "Are you okay?" "You look, I don't know, scared." Her eyes searched my face, like she was trying to decide if she could trust me. Finally, she leaned forward and whispered, "You've noticed it too, haven't you?" "Noticed what?" "The passengers. The crew. Something's wrong with them." Relief flooded through me. I wasn't crazy. Yes, God, yes, I thought I was losing my mind. "I'm Emma," she said. "I boarded in Vancouver. That was 3 days ago. Tom, I got on in Seattle. People have been disappearing," Emma said, her voice low and urgent. "Every night I've watched. They go into their cabins, and by morning, they're gone. But then I see them again during the day, walking around like nothing happened. Except they're different. They don't talk anymore. They just exist." "Mrs. Keller," I said, "the woman next door to me. She disappeared, but I saw her last night in the dining room." How many people were in there? All of them. Every table was full. They were just sitting there, staring at their food. Emma pulled out her phone and showed me a video. It was shaky footage of a hallway at night. A door opened and a passenger stepped out. A middle-aged man in a bathrobe. He walked stiffly down the hall, turned a corner, and disappeared. The timestamp read 3:33. "I've been recording them," Emma said. "They all leave their cabins around the same time, between 3 and 4 in the morning. They go somewhere and then they come back different." "Where do they go?" "I don't know. I've tried to follow them, but the crew is always watching. But I did find something." She glanced around to make sure no one was listening. There's a maintenance passage on deck 5. It leads down below the passenger levels. I think that's where they're taking people. We need to see what's down there. Are you sure? If they catch us, if we don't do something, we're going to end up like them. Emma nodded slowly. Okay. Tonight, meet me at the maintenance passage at 2. The crew does rounds at 2:30, so we'll have a small window. We exchanged cabin numbers and parted ways. I spent the rest of the day in my room, trying to calm my nerves. I checked my phone, the photo I'd taken of the passenger manifest yesterday. The names were different, completely different. People who'd been listed were gone, replaced by names I didn't recognize. I was deleting the photo when I noticed something in the background. A reflection in the glass frame. A crew member standing behind me when I took the photo. I hadn't seen anyone there. At 1:45, I slipped out of my cabin. The hallway was dark except for the emergency lighting along the floor. I took the stairs down to deck 5, moving as quietly as possible. Emma was waiting near a door marked Crew Only Authorized Personnel. She had a flashlight in one hand. Ready? She whispered. I nodded. She tried the door. It was unlocked. We slipped inside. The maintenance passage was narrow and dimly lit, metal stairs leading down into darkness. The walls were covered in pipes and electrical conduits, everything painted industrial grey. The air smelled like rust and seawater. We descended slowly, the stairs clanging softly under our feet, down one level, then another, then another. I lost count after 5. This couldn't be right. We had to be below the waterline by now, below the engine rooms. Finally, the stairs ended at a heavy metal door. Emma pulled it open. The chamber beyond was vast, the size of an airplane hangar, impossibly large. Rows and rows of hospital beds stretched into the distance, each one occupied. Passengers lay unconscious, hooked up to IV lines and medical monitors. Their chests rose and fell with slow mechanical breathing. "Oh my God," Emma whispered. I recognized faces. The elderly couple from the comedy show, the man in the Seahawks jersey, Mrs. Keller lying peacefully in a bed near the front, her silver hair spread across the pillow. They were all here, every missing passenger alive but sleeping. "What is this?" I said, moving between the beds. "Some kind of medical experiment." "Look at the equipment," Emma said, pointing. The 4th lines didn't lead to normal bags of fluid. They connected to tubes that ran into the walls, pulsing with something dark and viscous. The monitors showed readings I didn't recognize, symbols instead of numbers. A sound echoed through the chamber. Footsteps coming from somewhere behind us. "Someone's here," I hissed. We ducked behind a row of beds. A figure emerged from the shadows, the comedian from the first night, still wearing his cheap tuxedo. He walked among the beds, checking monitors, adjusting tubes. His movements were precise, mechanical. Then he stopped, his head tilted, listening, his face split open, not like a mouth opening. The entire front of his skull separated into sections, peeling back like flower petals to reveal something else underneath, something that wasn't human. I glimpsed too many eyes, pale flesh, teeth arranged in wrong patterns. Emma grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. We both pressed against the wall, trying not to breathe. The comedian's head closed back up. his human face reassembling. He continued his rounds, humming that same children's song I'd heard on the radio. When he disappeared through a door on the far side of the chamber, we ran, back up the stairs, moving as fast as we dared, the metal clanging, echoing in the narrow space. My lungs burned. Emma was ahead of me, taking the steps 2 at a time. We burst through the door onto deck 5 and nearly collided with a crew member, the woman I'd seen working in multiple places. She looked at us, and her expression didn't change. "You shouldn't be here," she said in a flat voice. More crew members appeared from the hallways, converging on our position. 6 of them, then 8, then 10, all moving in perfect synchronization. "Run!" Emma shouted. We sprinted toward the stairs. The crew members followed, their footsteps perfectly matched, like they were one organism controlling multiple bodies. We made it to deck 6, then 7, climbing higher. I glanced back. They were gaining on us, moving with inhuman speed. "The lifeboats," I gasped. "If we can get to the lifeboats." We reached the exterior deck. Cold wind hit my face, and I could see the dark water far below. The lifeboat stations were sealed with metal covers, locked tight. "They're all locked," Emma said, yanking on the mechanisms. "Every single one." The door behind us opened. Crew members poured out onto the deck. "There's one more place," I said. "Deck 13. Emma stared at me. "What are you talking about?" "There is no Deck 13. That's what I thought too. But there's a stairwell, hidden. I found it the first night. Whatever's up there might be separate from this." We ran along the deck, the crew close behind. I found the door I'd passed through before, the one that didn't match the ship's layout. We slipped inside and I slammed it shut, bracing it with my body while Emma looked for something to jam it with. The stairwell was just as I remembered. Steep metal stairs leading up, a sign reading Deck 13, crew only. We climbed. The door at the top wasn't locked. I pushed it open, and we stepped through into impossibility. Deck 13 was enormous. The ceiling stretched up 30 feet or more, and the space extended in all directions, far larger than the ship's actual dimensions. The walls weren't metal. They were organic, pulsing slightly, covered in a texture like muscle tissue. Veins of bioluminescent material ran along the surfaces, casting everything in a sickly green light. At the center of the space was a structure that defied description. It was part machinery, part living organism, pipes and cables merged with tissue and bone, all of it connected to the ship's systems. The thing breathed, a wet rasping sound that filled the chamber. "What the hell is that?" Emma whispered. The ship's intercom crackled to life. A voice spoke, except it wasn't one voice. It was dozens, layered over each other, speaking in perfect unison. "You shouldn't have come here." We spun around, but there was no one visible. The voice came from everywhere. "We've been watching you," the voices said. "Tom, Emma, you see more clearly than the others. That makes you valuable or dangerous." "What are you?" I shouted at the ceiling, at the walls, at the pulsing structure. "We are the Northern Star, the ship and the crew and the passengers, all one. We have been one for a very long time." Emma grabbed my hand. "We need to leave. Now." There is nowhere to go, the voices said. You're at sea, miles from land. Even if you jumped, you would die in the water, cold, alone. What did you do to those people downstairs? I demanded. Why are they unconscious? They are not unconscious. They are dreaming. Beautiful dreams, peaceful dreams. No more pain, no more fear. They give themselves to us, and in return, we give them eternity. You're feeding on them, Emma said. That's what this is. Some kind of parasite. We prefer symbiote. The ship was damaged long ago in the Bering Sea. Something breached the hull during a storm. It found its way into the systems, into the crew. Over time, we became one. The cruise line still exists, still books passengers. They don't know what we've become. Or perhaps they do know and choose to ignore it. Profit outweighs morality. I thought about the website, the good reviews, the too good to be true price. You have a choice, the voices continued. Join the sleepers below, alive but dreaming, forever at peace. Or join us, become part of the crew, aware but no longer yourself. Both options are preferable to the alternative. What alternative? I asked. Remaining as you are. Conscious, afraid. We cannot allow that. The walls began to move, sections of organic material sliding aside. Crew members emerged from hidden passages, dozens of them surrounding us. They all wore the same blank expression. Emma broke away from me and ran toward the central structure. If we destroy that thing, maybe we can stop this. Emma, wait. But she was already there, grabbing a piece of metal piping that had fallen from the machinery. She swung it at the organic structure, and it connected with a wet crunch. The ship screamed. Every speaker, every intercom, every surface erupted with a sound that wasn't human. It was agony and rage and something else, something ancient. The crew members all jerked at once, like puppets on strings. The walls began to pulse faster, the bioluminescent veins brightening. Emma hit the structure again, and this time it ruptured. Dark fluid sprayed out, thick and oily. The smell was overwhelming, rotting fish and chemicals. The floor tilted beneath my feet. It's sinking, Emma shouted. The ship is sinking. I grabbed a fire axe from the wall mount and joined her, hacking at the pulsing mass. Every strike made the ship scream louder. The crew members collapsed one by one, falling to the floor like their strings had been cut. The chamber was filling with water now, rushing in from somewhere below. The organic structure writhed, trying to repair itself, but we kept hitting it. Pieces of tissue sloughed off, dissolving in the water. We have to get out. I grabbed Emma's arm and pulled her toward the door. We ran through the tilting hallways, water chasing us. The ship was listing badly now, groaning as it died. We made it to the top deck just as the first lifeboat broke free from its moorings, crashing into the water. In the distance, lights appeared on the horizon. Real lights. A Coast Guard vessel, cutting through the waves towards us. How did they know? Emma gasped. Maybe someone on shore noticed we were off course. Maybe we triggered something when we damaged that thing. I don't know. The helicopter arrived first, spotlights sweeping across the sinking ship. They lowered a rescue harness, and Emma went up first, then me. I watched the Northern Star sink as we flew away, the massive vessel disappearing beneath the black water. They brought us to a hospital in Juneau. The Coast Guard had found dozens of passengers in the chamber below, all alive but unresponsive. Catatonic, the doctor said. Some kind of mass neurological event, possibly from contaminated food or water. Emma was in the bed next to mine. We hadn't spoken much since the rescue, both of us trying to process what had happened. "Do you think it's really dead?" she asked on the third day. "I don't know. I hope so." The Coast Guard said there were no crew members found on board. They all just vanished. I thought about the comedian's face splitting open, the thing underneath. Maybe they weren't real to begin with. Maybe they were always just extensions of whatever that thing was. A nurse came in to check our vitals. She smiled, a real smile this time, and told us we'd be discharged soon. The authorities wanted to do more tests, rule out any lingering effects. That night, I couldn't sleep. I turned on the TV mounted to the wall, flipping through channels. Local news, weather, a cooking show. Then I saw it, a commercial for a cruise line. Discover Alaska aboard the brand new Northern Star 2. The footage showed a gleaming white ship, passengers waving from the deck, crew members in crisp uniforms. The crew members wouldn't look at the camera. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. An email notification. I picked it up with shaking hands. The subject line read, "Your cruise confirmation." I opened it. "Thank you for booking with Northern Voyages. Your 7-day Alaskan cruise aboard the Northern Star 2 departs next week. We look forward to welcoming you aboard." Below that was a boarding pass with my name on it, and at the bottom, in small text, confirmation number 947. My cabin number on the original ship. I tried to cancel the booking, clicking through links that led to error pages. The Northern Voyages website didn't exist according to my browser. 404 not found. Emma was awake now, staring at her own phone. "Tom, did you get an email?" "Yes." "Me too. Same cruise, same ship." We sat in silence, the only sound the beeping of medical equipment. 3 days later, a package arrived at the hospital. The nurse brought it to my room, a plain manila envelope with no return address. Inside was a boarding pass, thick cardstock, embossed letters, the Northern Voyages logo printed in gold. And beneath that, a handwritten note in elegant script. "We'll see you soon." I looked out the window at the grey Alaskan sky and thought about that vast chamber beneath the ship, those rows of sleeping passengers hooked up to tubes. I thought about Mrs. Keller's warning, about the crew members with no reflections, about the thing at the heart of Deck 13 that had spoken in a chorus of voices. Emma appeared in my doorway, holding an identical envelope. "What do we do?" she asked. I crumpled the boarding pass in my fist. "We don't go. We warn everyone we can. We tell them about Northern Voyages, about the Northern Star. And if they don't believe us? If they think we're crazy?" I didn't have an answer for that. That night, I dreamed of deep water and ships that breathed like living things. I dreamed of hallways that stretched forever, of faces that split open to reveal something ancient and hungry beneath. I dreamed of that voice, those layered voices speaking as one. "We'll see you soon." When I woke up, there was another envelope on my nightstand. I didn't remember anyone bringing it in.